castle goring from Mickey, Aurora, and from me. As you might be able to hear, I am not in the finest flush of health, so I'm rather flushed with a pretty rotten cold. So without further ado, I'm going to plunge right in. Michael Imardi says, I love how just last week you said Meghan doesn't have enough vision to support the women in Iran protesting. And then this morning in the news, she has made a surprise appearance wearing a shirt in Farsi saying women, life, freedom. Do you think she has notifications set up and is glued to your channel as well? She may be taking hints. Well, first of all, let me say, self-praise is no recommendation, and I do not need to be boastful. So even if I knew that Megxababian has, otherwise known as has been and never was, looked at or kept a pace with what goes on this channel, I would be the last one to say it. There would be very good reasons to not say it for many, many different reasons. Boastfulness would be the least of them. So let's forget about that aspect of it. Amit Scabies is half Iranian. Remember, he is biracial. He's half Caucasian on his mother's side and half Caucasian on his father's side, which makes him biracial. And the two women in the photograph are Iranian as well. They both work with Meghan. You notice what's really interesting is she forgot the brown face. Isn't that interesting? No brown face. Oh my goodness. Aurora, get Al Jolson's phone number. I want to complain to him immediately. MSKK909 says, and now we're going to have just a little fun before we plunge into the really rather serious matters. Who else are they? Hank and Skank. I have to tell you, I just love some of these comments. Then other people said Liz and Dick, and somebody had in brackets head. And Beavis and Butthead. No brackets for that head. Oh dear, let's have a little fun. Hallaroo123 says, having read Valentine Low's book, I think that as long as there is anything MM deems as bad publicity for her image, even if the stories are true, may I interject at this stage and say, especially if they're true, MM will keep on putting her truth out there and attack especially those who cannot speak up due to being in the royal family, NDAs, etc. Absolutely fascinating how her mind works. Well, Hallaroo, that's one way of looking at it. I would say it's awfully pedestrian of a certain type of personality. And of course, because I was brought up by somebody with a very disordered personality, where nothing ever was what it appeared to be, and the truth was simply putty in the sculptress's hand to form the latest bust that she wanted, the latest representation of herself that she wanted you to admire. I think it's very, very predictable. And yes, you are absolutely right. So as long as she exists, her sculpting of the facts with a generous dose of fiction to add form where there is none will continue. Shelley's Cloud says, "It gets worse. Yesterday, Crazy Days and Nights posted a blind gossip item implying that W had not only had one, but more affairs, and the madness that his children were all by by surrogacy." Oh dear, oh dear. I mean, this does get funnier by the minute, doesn't it, you know? I mean, one really does have to laugh at the complete farcicality of it all. Whether it is Megsy Baby writing across her bust in Farsi, or her people posting ridiculous nonsense on these crazy days and nights and just generally crazy websites. Well, all I can say is Catherine's bumps followed the line of true pregnancy. I don't think that is an accusation we can level at all people that we might be able to think of. Now, I'm not saying that there wasn't a genuine pregnancy, but if there was certainly supplementary padding or supplementary projection or supplementary points of conversation. Kitty says, "Dear Lady C, there has been some news re H&M's alleged forciumentary at Netflix. Yesterday deadline, one of the top most reliable and legit movie news / entertainment news sources online has reported that Netflix is allegedly rattled and that they, quote unquote, blinked first and decided to postpone the documentary, end of quotes, a source told Deadline. Netflix said Monday that there's never been any documentary from the Duke and Duchess of Sussex confirmed. Deadline has reached out to Archwell, or maybe just Arch Rubbish, for comment. Why would Netflix say this and deny something that wasn't much of the talk as of now? Could you please enlighten us what is actually happening? Is this another PR from Netflix in preparation for release of the new Crown Season 5? Why would they release this rather unexpected bit of news? Or, well, I'm going to actually break this down because it's such a long question. I'm going to answer this part of it right now. It would have little or nothing to do with the launch of the Crown. That's number one. Number two, why would they announce this now? Well, they're preparing the ground. They're laying the dust so that when the axe falls and they hold up the head, no red matter will have dribbled on the ground, or very little red matter. They would have laid the ground. So, but we'll get to that in a little while. Why would they release this rather unexpected bit of news? Or is this them delaying the documentary until after the coronation to maximise the PR and viewership? I still think that both the book and the reality show are coming out this year. I can't see how Penguin, Random House or Netflix would want to miss an opportunity to use all the PR from the recent high-profile royal events. What do you think? Thank you. I think you have your finger firmly on the corporate pulse. We need to take anything Harry and Meghan say with more than a pinch of salt. More than a pinch of salt. We need to be absolutely sure that their truth isn't swallowed by us as other truth. I'm going to tell you one or two things I have discovered, and I think they're accurate. There are tremendous scenes behind the problems. Behind the scenes, there are tremendous problems. I've tried to say this before. This is not that new a reality. It may have been exacerbated recently, but there have been problems with the content, or should I say lack of desirable content. There is talk, and let me make this point. Harry and Meghan didn't get $200 million or $100 million. I am reliably informed, and I believe it, that they got a low 7-figure sum. Maybe even 100th. Is that right? Or is it a 10th? I'm not very good on math. Anyway, it's above 2 million, but evidently not that much more. Oh dear, oh dear. Aurora, come and console Motty. She needs your help. Poor Megsie, babe. All that betrayal for such chicken feed. I mean, Judas got 30 pieces of silver, was a lot of money in those days, and poor Megsie only gets 2 or 3 million. And having got sunshine sacks to tell everybody it was however many 100 million and put everybody else off. They haven't delivered the goods. However, Harry's presence as a part of the Netflix operation does give the crown a certain validity. And this is how PR works in the world at large. There's another 2 letters that often can be interchanged with PR. BS. You know, you just tell the lie and hope people are going to believe it. And so Harry doesn't need to make the contribution. His very presence gives validity to any false narrative that Netflix comes up with. It's called betrayal by omission. Lynn D says, Dear Lady C, I would like your opinion as to whether I'm correct in this matter of Netflix docuseries and Has No Senses memoir. I love it. I believe we are all being played in order to drum up interest for viewers' book sales by individuals that don't really have people smarts, to put it bluntly. This game of ducks and drakes, will they, won't they, and general silly buggers, I can tell this is an English comment, well, a British comment I should say, has a way of backfiring. The Harkles are the consummate idiots who have played this game for so long it has just become tedious. Everything has to be a secret or drama. That is now so predictable and boring. I believe that most people couldn't give a monkey's left testicle about what is in the TV shows or books, and I also believe that the majority of people will not bother with either. Am I correct in my assumption? I think, Lindy, you have summarized the situation very well where people of sense and discernment are concerned. You know, we've been told so many conflicting, contradictory, and really unbelievable narratives that there comes a point when the straw breaks the camel's back, and I think the camel's back has been well and truly broken. I think the story keeps on running because the train is hurtling to a crash and people want to see the crash. But I don't think there's any genuine interest as to either of them as individuals. I have said it before and I'll say it again. Let us see what happens. But even if people look at the show, which of course Netflix is now denying possibly exists at all, that's not a good sign, unless they're also playing silly buggers with the public. It's not a good sign. It is a possible indication of somebody bringing the bowl of water for Pontius Pilate to wash his hands. Lavender Lace says, Dearest Lady C, question, what would happen after the Netflix documentary, the Spotify podcasts, and the Harry memoirs come to an end? Surely the payments for these productions are not going to support them for all time. I cannot see anyone paying them for anything else in the future, as it's been disastrous and full of drama and obviously have cost the production companies extra for all the dramas. What will they do for a living? This money can't last them forever. Will the king support them? Love your show. Well, Lavender Lace, my understanding is that the king is at the end of his tether and that he is not as malleable as you might think he is. Sorry, I don't want to interfere with the flow of the program, but I do want to interfere with the flow of the cold. Sorry. I understand that, you know, he's going to put the monarchy, just as his mother did, before anybody else. And that includes has been and never was. Will he support them? If push comes to shove and Harry has to be given a settlement, he will be given a settlement that is ironclad and untouchable by Meghan or any other woman who Harry might get himself involved with. And it would not be for a grand and luxurious lifestyle. It would be a very modest lifestyle. And let me tell you, the royal family have form where this is concerned. When the Duke of Kent died in, I think it was December 1942, and he was young, and he had a 2 or 3 week old son, Prince Michael, and a young widow with 3 young children. His allowance from the state stopped immediately. And even though Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of the time, tried to get it reinstated for the Duchess of Kent. It was £25,000 per annum, which was a reasonable amount of money then. He wasn't able to do it, and her income, and also incidentally, she's the only royal who ever had to pay tax, inheritance tax, on her widow's proceeds, let's put it that way. The palace took the decision, that is King George VI and Queen Elizabeth. And my understanding is that Queen Elizabeth was behind it, not Queen Elizabeth II, her mother, who became Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, who did not like Princess Marina and used as an excuse that it might rock the boat if this issue had to be addressed, and it might get out and cause problems for the royal family. So Princess Marina was never given a proper allowance. She spent the rest of her life hand to mouth selling stuff to keep her show on the road. So don't think it hasn't been done, and don't think it can't be done. And let's see if it will be done. Because the king was very heavily influenced by his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, who was a study in ruthlessness when it suited her. She put what she perceived as the interests of the royal family above everyone and everything. So let's watch this space, so to speak. Lady Cymbeline says, Meghan had a paid gig as a model on a wildly popular televised game show. For most people breaking into the acting television world, this is a rite of passage and a respectable role to learn the ropes of TV filming and build up a portfolio. There's no need to disparage an entirely memorable and respectable experience for many of the models on Deal or No Deal. I would never have looked at any of the briefcase models on that show and called them bimbos, or think they were operating for a less than, in quotes, mindset. Meghan's impressing those labels, words and ideas upon the US, upon us, not the US, upon us. Big block capitals. It's very difficult sometimes because people are constantly dealing with anagrams and abbreviations, whether it's the word or an abbreviation. How ironic. And she left after 34 episodes. Well, a little birdie whispered something to me. Chirp, chirp. Howie Mandel, who was the host. Meghan did what she always does. She goes and befriends, or tries to befriend, and sucks up to, and then tries to, with a combination of seduction and domination, to increase her role and gain control of what's going to happen with her part in anything. And evidently, Howie Mandel didn't like it and felt that Meghan's behavior was not that which he wished to have any of the girls on the show indulge in. And evidently his wife also thought, oh dear, what's going on here? Could Meg's baby be getting ready to not only take over their show, but take over whatever else? And she was encouraged to resign, evidently. This, of course, could be mean gossip, but somehow it has the ring of veracity. Now, the Bimbo podcast is really a bit of a joke, isn't it? But it's a serious joke, because until you look at it, you do not realize that Meghan has come to save us from all inequity, inequality, injustice. She is nobly going to cure the problems of the world, especially when they're 20 years out of date. One act of compassion and complaint at a time. When she had on Paris Hilton, who I'm told, how true it is, I don't wish to speculate upon, that Paris Hilton is not a natural fit with Meghan. Paris Hilton, whatever her failings, and she can be quite self-centered, but Paris Hilton is from a very well-established family. And she uses publicity successfully to achieve what Meghan has been trying to achieve and so far failing to achieve. Yes, she played the role of a bimbo, and according to her, it took over her life. Well, Breaking Down the Bimbo is the title of the show. And you have never heard such rubbish in your life. Because what is Meghan complaining about? Well, first of all, for the first 8 minutes, it's all about Meghan. That's better than with Serena Williams. I think it took 11 minutes before Serena Williams got a shoe-in. Well, and according to Meghan, she was terrified of meeting and interviewing Paris Hilton because she's such a snob. And Meghan doesn't like people from the established order. They make her feel small. They make her feel insignificant. This was her problem with the British aristocracy. She's the one who went out of her way to snub people. People didn't go out of their way to snub her because she didn't like the fact that she felt inadequate in front of them. And she is inadequate because she lacks the exposure, the breeding, the layering, the knowledge, and doesn't want to learn about acquiring it. Well, the blonde bimbo, oh, and incidentally, if I remember correctly, Meghan almost called herself a dumb blonde. Yeah? Well, I know she's a full Caucasian, but I didn't realize she was blonde as well. I think we better start to get worried about all the Danish virgins whose hair is going to be acquired by Meghan. Well, of course, the dumb blonde or the bimbo is a stereotype. It's not an archetype. It's a stereotype. Marilyn Monroe did it very well. Judy Holliday, to those of you who are old enough to remember, who was a huge comedian and was a genius, incidentally. Jane Mansfield, who was also extremely intelligent. And Dolly Parton, who's made the point that it takes an awful lot of money to look as vulgar as she does. So the blonde bimbo kicks in as well, or the bimbo. It is a stereotype that plays well. Nobody necessarily expects the stereotype to be done. What they do expect is that the person playing the stereotype is true to the role. It's casting, it's sensual casting. But Meghan, of course, has to find ways and means of complaining about everything. Even though she hustled those buns and padded those boobs. I don't know if you've looked at the other girls. Many of them didn't have padding. She had padding like it was coming out of style. In fact, I began to wonder if maybe she hadn't been filching from the Gone with the Wind era, all the cotton that was being picked, because remember, what God has forgotten, woman stuffs with cotton. She also complains about the bronzer and about the hair extensions and about the false eyelashes. Well, if she's complaining about them, why is she still using them? Because she is. Now, I personally think there's nothing wrong with enhancing yourself if you wish to do so. But then don't complain about it. Paris Hilton is quite an interesting personality. I understand from people who know her. She is extremely focused on herself, quite detached. As a teenager, she was totally off the rails, and she was put back on the rails after an extremely unpleasant experience at a boarding school, quote unquote, which she has a lot of bitterness about. She seems not to have asked herself, would she have had the success had she not had people draw lines very firmly over which she wouldn't stray? Because she did not stray over the lines to make herself into the bimbo success that she did. And she has made herself hundreds of millions of dollars doing it. So she's a very good businesswoman who turned herself into a marketable product that she was able to sell to a gullible public, even though she was no fool. I don't want to go on and on about Meghan, because quite frankly, she's a bore. You know, it's when she goes on about, and I'm just going to read this out because it's so ridiculous. I didn't like being forced to be all looks. Excuse me. A briefcase girl isn't only about looks, it's about personality. It's about appealing to the people who are maybe going to choose you because you have an inviting personality. It's not only about looks. Of course, she then goes on. There were times when I was on set at Deal or No Deal and thinking back to my time working as an intern at the US Embassy in Argentina, Buenos Aires, and being in the motorcade with the Secretary of the Treasury at the time and being valued specifically for my brain. Here I was being valued for something quite the opposite. Well, before reading the rest of the quote, I have to say. She turned 21 when she was in Argentina. The Secretary of the Treasury was there on a visit, and she was, as a treat because it was her birthday, allowed to ride in one of the cars in the motorcade. The way she's presented it, the Secretary of the Treasury being fully aware of her genius, because remember, Meghan is not only a genius and can solve every problem in the world, but she's very stoical about it all, because she's long-suffering. As long as you know that she's suffering, she's going to suffer forever on our behalf. Well, if he met her for more than the blink of an eyelid, it wouldn't have occurred to him to consider her as anything but an intern. Her uncle Mike, remember the uncle who got her the position, whom she did not invite to the wedding, whom she did not get in touch with when she knew he was dying. She did not attend the funeral. She didn't even send a bunch of dugu flowers, as the Jamaicans would put it. The sort of dugu flowers that she managed to pitch up with from somewhere at Uvalde. Well, now she says, here on Deal and Deal, Deal or No Deal, I was being valued for something quite the opposite. I ended up quitting the show. I was so much more than what was being objectified on the stage. I didn't feel like being forced to be all looks and little substance. Well, why are you still being all looks and little substance? Oh, Aurora, please put back the hair of those Turkish virgins. I'm sending it to Meg's baby as a birthday present. I didn't feel like being forced to be all looks and little substance. That's how it felt for me at the time, being reduced to this specific archetype, the word bimbo. No, you were not being reduced to being a specific archetype. You were being paid to enact the role of jolly, attractive young women who have a valid role to function. You know, Meghan, looks are a gift from God. Well, in our case, it's a gift from God. In your case, it's a gift from a plastic surgeon. But putting that aside, good looks are a gift, usually from God, but maybe from Daddy. And then from whomever else. Why are you hating the fact that you used an advantage you had to create a career for yourself that was reasonably successful? I'll tell you why you're denigrating it. Because you basically feel that you should get everything for nothing. You don't need to do anything because you are the be-all and end-all. How great thou art. Shall we do a Marilyn Monroe? How great thou art. You seem to forget you're not a god or a goddess. You're a very flawed and, quite frankly, not that gifted human being who punches way above her weight. And people have discovered it. They see through you and your pretensions. And now I'm going to deal with something that Claudia Jordan, who starred in Deal or No Deal for 4 seasons, from 2005 to 2009, said about Meghan. She said that the show never treated any of them like bimbos, and that it helped to provide them with so many opportunities, which of course it did. That's how you get started. She says, and I quote, "For clarity, yes, getting a modeling gig on a game show isn't necessarily about your intellect, but it is partly about your personality, incidentally." I interject that. But every show, the executive producers picked 5 models with the most outgoing and fun personalities to place mics on, who they knew would engage with the contestants. Deal or No Deal never treated us like bimbos. We got so many opportunities because of that show. She then said, if you just show up and don't engage, then you'll just get your check and not get much out of it. Well, it depends where you're going to show and what you're going to show and when you're going to show it up, doesn't it? Howie, I have ideas about how I can expand my role. Yes, I do. Because that was her shtick with every single role she got, evidently. And it annoyed an awful lot of people. But if you show up and seize your moments, there's no limit to what you can do with the opportunity. And Claudia Jordan then makes the point that it helped to launch a major career for her. It was a step on the ladder I've been ascending on for 25 years that paid all my bills, put me in front of 13 million people a night, and led to me getting on Celebrity Apprentice All Stars, a breast cancer awareness campaign, guest hosting Extra, getting into People's 100 Most Beautiful issue, and so much more. It also led to me co-hosting the 2009 Miss University pageant with Billy Bush in front of 500 million people. Not too shabby for a bimbo, she observes. Then she says, if you show up and seize your moments, there's no limits to what you can do with the opportunity. Jordan, who like Meghan is a woman of colour, but naturally better looking than Meghan, and she didn't pad herself, interestingly enough, but then she wasn't desperate like Meghan. She has said, she went to some pains to say, that she wasn't attacking Meghan. She said it was important for her to defend the show and all the people who worked so hard to make it a success. Then I quote, Lord knows I've been defending this woman in the media for years. Notice this woman. I still will, but I just don't want any misunderstanding about the climate and environment on the Deal or No Deal set. And I'm especially protective of Howie Mandel, woohoo, who was nothing but kind and respectful to all of us, even those who didn't like marks that he might have been supposed to overstep to increase her role and make her the star of the show. So you see, Meghan's greed and need for attention and to be the star of every show is an ingrained feature of her personality. Right is Right says, Lady C, what do you think of the Harkles joining forces with Ving and Uvalde? Well, I'll tell you what I think. I think they're leeches who attach themselves to succulent bodies, then suck as much blood as they can to inflate themselves via a sustaining transfer of life-giving and maybe money-giving fluid. I'm going to read out what James Holt, the director of the Archewell Foundation, says. Our hope is that this special project can help the community heal and be home to imagination games and plays for many years to come. Meghan and Harry's charity was one of the 3 organizations which joined forces to build a playground. The playground was also built by, wait for it, the city of Uvalde and the non-profit Kaboom. How much did they give? Well, I think $10 is a lot of money. And as for Ving, the announcement gives the game away. With the return of archetypes, Archewell Foundation and Ving have come together to create the perfect combination of these loves. You notice everything is in sickly sentimental treacle. By donating 1 million in grants to women in need, our hope is not only to provide support where it may be felt deepest, but also to empower young adults to embrace the gift of giving at an early age. I'm very proud of this partnership and the good we hope to see come out of it. By donating $1 million in grants to women in need, our hope is not only to provide support where it may be felt deepest, but also to empower young adults to embrace the gift of giving. I'm very proud of this partnership and the good we hope to see come from it. The only problem is, Ving is the one who's giving the money. Meghan, Harry and Archewell are simply coasting on the coattails of someone else's bank account. Kat S. says, Netflix needs to fear the public wrath for their newest season, which dramatizes Diana's death. The producers hide behind the fact that the series is fictional, yet they know people think it is reality. In fact, Harry has said that royal reality is worse than the series depicts. I will not be viewing the latest season of The Crown. By the way, why isn't Harry speaking out against the series? Didn't he vow to protect his mother's memory? Yes, he vowed to protect his mother's memory, but not at the price of his bank account. We need to understand that in life you have choices to make, and he's made the choice. He's going to protect his mother's reputation and memory against everybody who isn't harming it or only harms it slightly, chief of which, it has to be said, are he and Meghan, because if they just let poor Diana just rest as the corpse that she really is and stop constantly dragging her name into things, the good that she has done will live on after her, and people won't need to constantly touch upon the mixed reality. But where money is concerned, what can I tell you? Filthy lucre comes before loyalty, obviously. Susan Amity says, Lady C, since Meg announced that she never signed any papers, do you think it's possible she has been convincing Harry from the beginning that if he doesn't stay with her and do what she says, she will spill all his intimate secrets as well? Well, I don't think she needs to persuade him. She only needs to behave as she has been behaving. But Harry's actually in a very strong position because Meghan has unmasked herself as so unreliable and untrustworthy in her version of facts that shades of wolf, even if she speaks the truth, who's going to believe it? It's the Weather says, what's the story behind Rachel still wearing a Cartier bracelet that her ex gave her? People living in glass houses should not throw stones. Well, I don't know about her throwing stones at acquisitive people. I don't recall her ever having condemned anybody for being acquisitive. So let's be fair. And of course, why would she give up or give back a Cartier bracelet when it has intrinsic as well as extrinsic value? You know, I had a friend who was a total opportunist, and it took ages to figure out what a total opportunist she was. And she once said, when somebody criticized her about her disloyalty and her treachery, she said in my presence, she said, well, what are you complaining about? I was nice to you. In other words, she had pretended to like this person and had been nice to this person for years, when all along it was just an act. She did get what she wanted at the end of the day, though. She got the title and she got the husband, but she hasn't got the money. I think same thing seems to be happening to Megsy baby. Oh dear, oh dear. Crawford says, hello, did you ever meet Her Serene Highness Princess Grace of Monaco? I'm interested if you have any more information regarding some of the mysteries surrounding her car crash and medical care. Also, is Princess Charlene really still part of the royal family? Thank you. I'm answering this because I think it's time for a change of pace. Yes, I did meet Princess Grace a few times. We had a great friend in common called Gwen Roberts, who was a great friend of hers and who was supposedly going to write a biography of me for, I forget the name of the publishers, but the publisher's name was Jeffrey Simmons. I can't remember the name of the publishing house. And so that was a little link that we had, and we ran across each other socially a few times. Beautiful woman. She was, I've said it before, the first time I saw Princess Grace was the night of Princess Anne's ball at Buckingham Palace. And she was a vision of loveliness and glamour. So beautiful. I saw her a few weeks before she died. She came over here for a Red Cross event. I was one of the committee members, and she was here with Princess Stephanie. And she had gained a lot of weight, and you could tell that she was in physical discomfort. She was having huge problems with the menopause. She evidently had a stroke and died. It's as simple as that. She had a stroke, lost control of the car, very tragic, and died. No mystery. As for Princess Charlene, yes, she is a part of the royal family, and I'm going to read out what Zimbabe says. Lady C, thanks for another informative video. Wish Meghan would take a page out of Princess Charlene's life story, a swimmer from South Africa to a gracious princess. Absolutely. Absolutely. Despite having had true serious physical problems, she's back on track, and she is a wonderful public princess. Look at her. She's beautiful. She does the job well. She doesn't push herself forward. There are always people trying to create mysteries where she and Prince Albert are concerned, there are no mysteries. No mysteries. They are a typical royal couple, as simple as that. And I do wish people would stop trying to ferret around, trying to find dirt where there is none. Joan Margaret says, Dearest Lady C, and this is really important, and I'm reading it because this absolutely typifies my feelings. This is an archetype, and I use the word in its true meaning, of good sense as promulgated by President John F. Kennedy a few months before he died. Dearest Lady C, much love to you and yours. When you discussed the dangers of escalating the proxy war with Russia, I was reminded of one of the greatest speeches JFK ever gave on the 10th of June 1963. Knowing that he saved the world from destruction during the Cuban Missile Crisis, whilst his advisors were urging him to send the bombs flying, I think he's uniquely qualified to advise us on how to keep the peace in the nuclear age. And so I quote him here. Above all, while defending our own vital interests, nuclear powers must avert these confrontations which bring an adversary to a choice of either a humiliating retreat or a nuclear war. To adopt that kind of course in the nuclear age would be evidence not only of the bankruptcy of our policy or of a collective death wish for the world. I don't think I could say it better than President Kennedy said it. It absolutely articulates my feelings entirely. I would sooner be somebody who comes to a negotiated peace and lives than ends up a corpse, because I am going to delude myself into thinking that might is right and that death is preferable to life. He made the point absolutely clear. A humiliating retreat or a nuclear war. Let's see all the doctrinaire idiots come up with reasons as to why we should be pushing for a nuclear war. But I don't want to hear them. And on that note, I will say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has been, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and please keep the questions and comments coming in. This cannot be done without you. God bless and goodbye.